Hi, I'm Jesus,
And I'm Andre.
and welcome to the Let's Go to the Movies podcast. Latest episode. Yeah, today we have another guest with us. Guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, what's going on, guys? My name is Gunnar. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. We're very glad that you decided to reach out to be on the podcast. And this week, the title is Frigid Dystopias, or it should be the title of the episode. And so the big reveal for what the movie is for this week is Bong Joon-ho's Snowpiercer. And so to start it off, we're going to go into our initial views on the movie, like when we first saw the film, whenever that was. And so we'll kind of go around the table as we usually do. So, Gunnar, if you wanted to start, please go ahead. If you can remember the first time that you saw this movie.
I actually saw this movie for the first time this morning.
Oh, wow.
I had never seen it before. Tried to watch it on Saturday, and I wanted to rewatch it again this morning, just kind of leading up to our recording here. Was only able to watch it this morning, though, and definitely unexpected. I had absolutely no clue what this movie was, other than that it's cold and there's a train. Always heard good things. Heard Chris Evans was fantastic, but like I said, I had no clue what I was getting into going into it. Didn't know there was that much action, and
Okay.
it was kind of a hidden gem for me. I can't believe I've gone 7-8 years at this point without ever running into it anywhere. A lot of huge symbolism, that's for sure. A lot of stuff, especially with capitalism in America. Definitely just unexpectedly blown away by how good it was, how good the sets were. Some of the camera work was a little much at sometimes. They tried to do some handheld type things, a little tight. But I guess at the same time, you're inside a train car. So
Yeah,
what are you supposed to
do?
do? I think they were trying to make you feel like you were there and congest it a little bit. So I can kind of let that slide a little bit. But
Yeah,
that's my feelings on the first time.
that's awesome. I completely forgot that you said that you hadn't seen it before when we initially organized this recording. But yeah, for me, this is the second time I've seen it, and quite frankly, I didn't remember a single scene until about 25-30 minutes into the movie. So I don't know if I saw the whole thing when I first
Right.
saw the movie, which was honestly just like a throwaway film I watched like on one weekend because I think it was on TV or something like that. And I actually think I recorded it to our PVR a couple of years ago, and I just sat kind of through it, not paid too much attention. But focusing on it this time around, that was so much more interesting because I already had read up on a bunch of things about the movie after I had watched it the first time. And so this one I was able to go in with like a fresh set of eyes, looking out for all those new things, and also just kind of rewatching the story, relearning it because I completely forgot huge chunks of it. And I only kind of knew the final scene and the one intense fight scene that's in the dark on the one train car. Those are
Yeah.
the only two moments I really remembered. So that every other bit, it was like I was watching again for the first time. And that was just super interesting. Like one of the points that I wanted to talk about later was Tilda Swinton's performance, because I really was blown away by what she was able to do. I mean, she's great in every single role that she does, but this one was very kind of, it struck a nerve because like it's a good villain when you really hate like
Right.
the person so bad. And so that was like really kind of getting it for me for the way that she was portraying that character. But yeah, nothing but positive reactions towards it for the most part. What about you, Jesus?
I actually saw the movie for the first time. I don't exactly remember when it was, but it was after the video. I'm gonna segue into that part. It was after the video of the conspiracy theory that it is a sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like the Willy Wonka thing, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it got me interested in the movie, and that's when I saw it for the first time. So I wasn't really surprised by what it was, I was more surprised by what they did with the entire concept, because I thought it was really clever doing like the tunnel is what blacks out all the entire train carriages, stuff like that. And the part that I really liked, that I thought, I just took a second, I was like, yeah, that was cool. Whenever the train was going and then they curved, and then the sniper was like, he was pointing through the windows, and since the train curved, he could actually hit the other person without having to go through other train cars. Yeah, that was cool.
That specific moment, I feel like I've seen it in another movie, but it could also just be.
I agree with you. Yeah.
But it could be just
I
watched
yeah.
Snowpiercer before. It could be just, oh, I knew it from that. But I swear, there's like been spy movies where the train's
It reminded me
curved.
of, oh man, I don't know if it was the movie Wanted, where they're in a train car and it's like hanging off a bridge and there's a fight scene in it. Unless I'm thinking of a different movie.
That sounds cool.
There's a specific movie where they're in a train car and it's hanging off a bridge and there's like a gunfight there. But I don't remember what it was.
I mean, there's like James Bond movies that do something like that. But
that
I
was
don't
in a
think
game too, wasn't it? One of the Uncharted games where that was like that.
There was a scene like that in an Uncharted game. I remember seeing clips for that. Yeah, but I don't know.
I
Like
think
that moment, I was like, it's always like super interesting, as just like a plot device, just to like when these characters who aren't able to physically fight can still have some type of interaction. Like,
right.
I mean, for an action movie,
Yeah.
at least, like you can't have it in any other type of film. But yeah, it was really interesting, that specific scene for sure, Jesus. And so moving on to the ratings that the movie received, I'm kind of surprised because Rotten Tomatoes, at least in my experience, has always been notorious for kind of being very harsh and kind of dropping the ball with a lot of ratings and kind of giving other things good ratings when they don't necessarily deserve it. They give Snowpiercer a 94%, and then IMDb gives it a 7.1 out of 10. So that difference
is that the audience score or the critic score for Rotten Tomatoes?
It looks like it's, unless the site is lying to me, it looks like it's the critic score.
Oh, really?
And then, oh my gosh, the audience score gave it a 72 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really?
And so Rotten Tomatoes audience score matches the critic score for IMDb. Almost.
Usually the audience score is like higher than the actual critic score.
Like, unless it's like some type of Oscar Beatty type movie that the audience just doesn't like.
Yeah.
But weird.
That's sad. I would actually agree with Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I was doing a little research just before I watched the movie, just with who was in it and stuff like that. And I saw that back when it was coming out, I can't remember who it was, but it was almost like a small independent film type thing, kind of how it was released, where it wasn't really worldwide, and you would have to like hunt for a theater to see it at. And I guess originally, before releasing the film, everyone was telling the director that he needed to change it to be more mainstream, or they didn't want to show it. And he fought, and the one that we actually see is the unedited version. But they wanted him to change a ton of stuff, and maybe that's why the ratings are kind of weird there.
Probably. Yeah. I'm curious to know what
that the audience score is not higher.
That's what's really shocking, because it would have been like the studios or some higher ups in the industry that were saying to change stuff, unless it was like when they screen films early and they like ask the audiences what should be changed, things like that, unless that was what triggered the edits. But
well,
I'm pretty sure
the audiences loved it when it was screened, but the higher ups really wanted it to change to be more of like a mainstream action movie.
Okay.
But they fought to keep it as is because they had a certain story to tell, you know?
Yeah.
I'll have to do some research and dive into that a little bit.
For sure. Because it's a striking like difference for the scores. It just doesn't seem normal for something that's like this, at least well respected for most people that I've encountered that have seen it.
What I was actually thinking about what happened there was like, you know how it happens where something is so, I don't want to say ahead of its time, it's just kind of like outside of what people are used to, like in popular media, right? That it's just kind of seen as like, well, I mean, I guess it was okay, but it was kind of weird because people aren't used to that sort of thing. And I feel like since they did something so different with the action movie genre, people just weren't really that used to it because
Right.
like there's like certain trends that things follow. That's why some people absolutely hate horror movies, and other people's like that those are their favorite movies because like there are those people that like I don't want to say follow these trends because there's a negative connotation, but yeah, like it just fits into the time.
And something else that, because it was 2013 or 2013-14 that it came out, I could honestly maybe say that the reason why the audience also, like a mainstream audience, wasn't as attracted to it is because not all of it was English language. That could be also the reason. At least the version that I ended up watching had no subtitles. For some reason, I don't know why it was.
Oh, really?
It wasn't provided. I don't know why it wasn't
Where'd you
there.
watch
So,
it on?
I watched it on a bootleg site, but like, in general, like
it was on Netflix for a while.
Yeah, it was, but then they got rid of it, at least in Canada. But with many movies like that, it's been in the edit itself. They've had the captions in there, so so because I believe Bong Joon-ho is the director of the movie, I think that could be why there isn't automatic captions that are just naturally put in the scenes. And I think for that reason could also be why people didn't like it as much, just because it's integral scenes when it's being spoken in Korean.
Yeah, it wasn't catered to American audiences.
Yeah, which is
like what was that one movie? They made it based on a French comic book series.
A French.
It was
gonna be.
It was like super. Yeah, it was like really hyped up and everything. And then whenever the movie came out, people just didn't really go to it because
Snowpiercer. Snowpiercer was based on a French comic book series.
No, it was another one. It's about space. It's about space.
Oh, Valerian?
Yeah.
Valerian and the something Thousand Planets. I don't know.
Yeah, because it looked really cool.
The one with Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne.
Yeah, I think that was French or something like that.
I think it was too. Yeah. And that one that one bombed. That was a big hit to whatever studio made it, because it was supposed to be like the next Avatar in terms of effects and stuff, but then it just flopped hard. It was bad.
Yeah, because it just wasn't something that like the American audiences were used to, because like it all of this was birthed in another country, and then they're basically just trying to like shove it into this like these blockbuster media type environments.
Yeah. I mean, I've also heard that the movie's just really bad in terms of the story, but I haven't seen it, so I can't. I can't speak on that. That's it. But yeah, like returning back to Snowpiercer. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, in the City of a Thousand Planets.
Oh, City of a Thousand Planets. Okay.
Yeah.
So returning to Snowpiercer really quick. Well, really quick. It's the episode. You did mention, Jesus, that you watched a video, and that is the biggest point that I wanted to touch on, and it's how this movie, there's a theory out there that it's the sequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and I just want to say, like, directly, I am 110% in support of this. I've like read the whole article. Yeah. It's like, why not accept that logic? It doesn't hurt anybody. It's just the most insane.
Except for your childhood, maybe.
Well, I mean,
because remember, he knows what babies taste like.
Oh, right. I forgot about that part for sure. Yep. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to go through just the few of the very big points that were tied to this theory. So one thing that's like kind of small, I didn't even think about it at first, but the golden ticket was how the kids got to go to see the factory in the first place in the Willy Wonka. So it's this message from this unknown man is put into food, just like how these little capsules were put into the protein bars in Snowpiercer. And then another thing that had to do with the food that I noticed, that I don't know if the article that talks about the theory mentioned really, but there's like this huge terrifying reveal in Snowpiercer that those protein bars that they eat that are just gelatinous are actually just made out of bugs that are just crushed up and put into these jelly form, which is kind of like a movie called Soylent Green, actually, that has a very similar plot
Soylent Green is people.
Oh, it's people.
Yeah.
It's oh my god, never mind. I thought
Wait,
that it was
you didn't
bugs.
know that?
I thought it was bugs.
No, it's
I'm wrong.
people. Yeah.
That's
the
bad.
entire first movie was like Soylent Green is people.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
bad.
But
But
I wanted to say something about those protein bars, actually.
yeah.
I didn't really have a problem with it. Like, I didn't think it was that weird. Because there are some protein bars that exist today, like right now, that you can go get them online, that are made out of bugs. They have more protein pound for pound than any red meat does. So, like, theoretically, it could very well happen. Like sure, they shouldn't have hidden it, but
Honestly,
it's kind of
I
gross.
wouldn't.
Yeah, but it's
I
a
wouldn't
good
mind.
idea.
I wouldn't care. I've eaten
Yeah, right?
crickets. What's the harm in it? There's no harm. But the way
Yeah,
that I
more
tied
the
it in.
fact that they, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, please.
It was I think it was more the fact that everyone else on the train had all these delicate meals, and they clearly had all this meat and fruit.
Mm-hmm.
That's what was more disgusting about it, is how they were specifically, deliberately feeding this to the people at the tail of the train. Not that, I mean, if everyone was eating that, okay. I mean, that's how you're surviving.
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah.
But I think it was they deliberately fed them that.
Yeah, especially
That's
since we
fair.
hear
Okay.
at one point Edgar's character saying, "I can't even remember the taste of a steak anymore," or something along those lines. And so, like, we're already kind of
Plus, people were being starved.
And stuff. So it's like you're getting like kind of like hints of like, oh, other food still exists or might still exist, and then you just kind of see that. Yeah, totally
There's
right.
something I want to just because you mentioned Edgar and the steak, I just want to touch on it before we move on.
Oh yeah.
I just realized this. He did say that he couldn't remember like what chicken or steak or something tasted like, but then we find out that Edgar was a baby whenever the train started. So how would he know what that tasted like?
I had the same question. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, the timeline isn't there for that. It really doesn't work. But
Yeah.
I mean, could be just a continuity error, or he could just could have like gained consciousness at like 5 months old. Who knows? Like,
I mean, he didn't lie.
Right.
He really doesn't remember.
I mean,
true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He just kind of exaggerated a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But the way that I thought the protein bars were kind of related to Willy Wonka was, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like this is a scene in the original movie. When he's making a certain type of candy, he throws a shoe in a machine and like a bunch of other ingredients.
I think so.
And so when he's like thinking like he's creating food out of things that aren't like commonly used as food. I mean, it's obviously bugs are
like
used
Crocs.
like bugs are used like in all other cultures outside North America, but like in Willy Wonka it's like done as like, or I mean not Willy Wonka, in Snowpiercer, just because it's like just done as like this jarring thing. I kind of equated it to that moment in Willy Wonka. And then in the article as well, they were saying how, I guess to explain the whole thing. So Wilford in Snowpiercer is meant to actually be Charlie from Willy Wonka, who grew up and built the Willy Wonka empire to be even bigger. And the theory kind of suggests that Wilford is what Willy is short for, and Charlie just changed his name. And the whole movie Snowpiercer is basically about Charlie trying to find his successor, just like what Willy Wonka did with Charlie. So it's literally the exact same kind of story beats. One of the main characters dies in each room that they go to, or roughly one dies in every room that they go to, just like in well, they don't die in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory Willy Wonka movies, but similar,
which is surprising, might I add.
Yeah, similar things. And one other thing that I think is one of the most important factors is that we hear Wilford, who is Charlie, say that the reason why they needed the children to man certain parts of the engine was because the piece that they had went extinct. But it doesn't make sense if that specific piece was done to like remove whatever gunk was in the engine. So I think that it was
Mhm.
Oompa Loompas that were supposed to be taking that seat, and then Oompa Loompas died out, and that's why only
Yeah, and
children
then
under
they
the
went
age of
extinct.
5. Yeah, and then that's why
Yeah.
only children under the age of 5 could be the ones to do that job, because they're the only ones that have that size that can fit in there. And so that was one thing that I was like, okay, I don't know if they touched on it in the theory article. I hadn't gone through like every single bit of it, but it's like pretty interesting. And then there's other ties where we see Wilford's interest in chemistry because he knew the worry that was going to happen with that gas CW7 that froze the whole world. The article tries
Mhm.
to tie it to Charlie drinking that floaty drink that makes him and his grandpa start floating in the air in the original Willy Wonka movie from the 70s. And I mean, I
Yeah.
guess that can tie it
Theoretically,
together.
this is a
Like,
bit of a
it's
stretch. Yeah.
that like it's starting to stretch out when you like start to go to those extents, but it's like still super interesting. And then like there was like claims that other characters in Snowpiercer were just aged up versions of the children from the original Willy
Yeah.
Wonka.
Yeah.
For example, the Tilda Swinton is supposed to be Veruca Salt, and that's because she's like, I guess, grateful for having Charlie save her life from getting thrown in the dumpster or something like that. Maybe it was very weirdly written, the article, but it's like something like that. And then that's why she treats Charlie or Wilford as like this godlike figure, because he saved her life from getting destroyed by going into the dumpster.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a weird theory. I mean, I went on like a very long tangent there. Sorry guys, but like I just find it so interesting because it's like not something that I've ever seen in any other movie really, where it's like such clear ties to something else that is not the same genre, not the same style at all. But
it's very scary how accurate.
Yeah, because you remember that you said that you took a class on like how you relate like these classic fairy tales or like these stories and stuff to actual real life movies, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
What I think could have absolutely happened there, like that's what spawned it, is that like they're two of the same stories that coincidentally just have to like fill each other's gaps, you know, like afterwards. Because if you think about it too, at the same time, this movie took place in, it was like 2026, right?
I thought it was 2041.
Oh, I thought it was like 2031.
Oh no, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's 2031.
2030 something, yeah.
Even so, the children would be so old.
It's true.
Yeah, you're right.
How old would they be in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Let's say they were like 12, right?
Unless it was like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory remake and not the original Willy Wonka that it was done with, if that makes sense.
It would make sense for Charlie to be Wilford, though, because, I mean, let's say they're 12, he'd be 70s, 80s at this point. I mean, and he's trying to find his new predecessor, so that would make sense.
Then again, we don't know if the actual original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was set in the year that it came out, because, you know, movies don't always set
That's true.
Present year. So it could be like a little in the future because their technology does not line up with the year.
Yeah, you're right. It could really be all over the place.
Unless like a retro futurism sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna say the theory's real. That it's set in stone.
It is.
There's no arguing it.
It is.
Yeah.
I forgot the word.
But Gunnar, since it's the first time that you've seen this, I'm just kind of curious to know if there was any specific things, like when it comes to like the camera style that was used for it, or like the way that they managed the space, because I always love movies that are very confined and how they can work around that. So I wanted to know if like you were able to pick up on anything that kind of fell along those lines.
I noticed straight from the beginning they do a lot of, well, not a lot of, but a few specific zoom-in shots that I really, really, really liked. For example, like in the very beginning, whenever he's like, hey, they have no bullets in their gun, and he goes up there to show it off, when he grabs that gun to his head, it zooms in, then it zooms in on Edgar, then it zooms in on the trigger, and like they do that a couple times throughout the movie. I wish I made a list of them. I know that doesn't really do with the space, but it works so well. Where in other movies, I feel like it's really cheesy if they do stuff like that, where they do bouncing zoom-in shots like that. It worked so well just to build that tension and get you to understand, like, this is happening right now, let's go. But I'm curious, I wish I did more research on this. Did they use a lot of practical sets for this?
I think they did, yeah. It's just like the environment.
It feels like it. It really feels like
yeah,
it. And
absolutely.
I like that a lot.
Like, I just know for a fact what the train fight scene was.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to touch on, is like all of the fight scenes are so incredible because it's like, it feels so hectic, and it feels like you're right there over the shoulder of Chris Evans because they're in this such tiny space. You get no wide shots of any fight scene, and it's incredible. You're just right there in the action. And, you know, it gets me tensed up and on my chair and like my blood rushing because you're just right there with it. And another thing with the action shots is first person mode. They do first person multiple times, like the night vision. That was such an interesting sequence to me, where you see him put the goggles on, they click on, and then you're actually with one of the guys just murdering all these people. And you get a couple first person shots of Chris Evans. One that I really like in the beginning of the movie, when they're making everybody sit down. And Chris Evans stays standing because he's trying to count the doors, right? It actually shows us a first-person shot of him looking at all the doors before he sits down.
Yeah.
I really like that. I like how they put you in perspective with these people, and you feel how close they're sleeping together and how nasty it is in there, and you really, really get a sense of how horrible these people are living. Really,
there's like no room to move anything, and then like the camera is so like confined between these two people.
They did a great job with that. Everything's so close, and you feel it just watching it through the screen.
For sure. Like, it's, well, I mean, ironically, it's another Korean film that, Snowpiercer has a Korean director and has like a lot of crew that were Korean, but like Train to Busan is another film from South Korea that has like successfully like maintains like a very, very well done film in like the similar tiny space like that. And like it's anytime that you can find a way to keep it as practical as possible within such like a constricted area is so cool. Like there's some films that I've seen that kind of cop out on it. In some regards, like there was the remake of Murder on the Orient Express that I admit I did enjoy the look of. There was some overhead shots where it was like there was no roof on the train and you could see like the people in each individual room. And I was like, I enjoy the shot. You get to see the inner lives of all those characters as they're kind of getting ready for bed. But then also it's like, oh, we're not really in the train anymore. And so that's...
It's away from that effect of being congested, you know?
Yeah, so it's like an interesting visual, but it like overall kind of breaks the constricted space of like that small murder scene for the film. But then it's like Snowpiercer, the only thing that's arguably like that is following the some of the fight scenes by watching it from outside of the train. But that's not breaking any of the structure of it, because we can still kind of get that constricted space because like they're passing by the windows and stuff. So it's it's still there. And that's literally any film that's like done in a super tight location, I'm like, okay, I commend the DP. I commend any person that had to like really work hard to make that space work. It's like so good.
Like there was a movie on Netflix just recently, I think it came out like last year. It's called #Alive. Have you ever seen it? It's another zombie movie.
Yeah.
I think I have.
Yeah, well, it's Korean too. The thing is, it takes place entirely in this one guy's apartment. So like he can't leave the things or anything because like of course there's like the zombie horde and everything else like that. And then like so basically he has to survive in his little thing. And of course all of this happened overnight, so he's not prepared at all. And most of the movie takes place in his one apartment. And like the only other things that they really break from that is
getting to other apartments. Basically.
Yeah, there's he gets to another apartment on the other side of the other apartment complex, and there's only like 3 apartments that are shown in the entire movie. Other than that, it's all confined to this little area.
Yeah, I'd say it's like a good 75-80% of the film is like in those small spaces. So it's like
and Frozen. The
And the
movie, how
movie
they in the
Frozen,
chairlift.
not the Pixar
Yeah.
film.
Not
The,
not the
Sitting there
not that
thinking
one.
like, what? I don't remember that.
Yeah, the one where they're stuck on the chairlift.
Oh yeah. We touched on that last week.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So like,
That's
literally,
all in one space too.
like anytime it's in like a small space like that, it's like so interesting. And
Oh,
Oh.
what movie was it? Room for the.
1408
Yes, that one.
with gosh,
That one too.
Sam Jackson and oh my gosh, I
I
can't
would also
remember
play
the
in that
other
one
guy's
hotel
name.
room. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Who cares?
Have you guys
Hotel
seen
room.
that British show? I think there's like one season on Netflix, or not Netflix, Hulu, and it's an apartment, whatever the number is, apartment 18 or something. And it's kind of like a Black Mirror type show where every episode is like an anthology type thing where it's a different story, but it all takes place inside this one apartment. You guys should check that out if you like small spaces like that. It's a little weird and freaky, but there's a specific episode I'll link in here after this that I think you guys should watch.
Awesome, for sure. That'd be so sick. Like that's. I mean, like I just said like 5 minutes ago. Yeah, like just working with a small space like that. I mean, it's easier to shoot with because you don't have to move everything around.
Well, you would think
but it's also harder to shoot with to like make it seem fresh after an hour.
Right.
You know.
And you're limited on CGI and stuff too. Like you're pretty limited with what is in this room right now. That's why I was curious how practical Snowpiercer was, because it looks incredible if it's all practical.
Yeah.
Most of it is like, what did they use for CGI in there? Other than like honestly, the bugs they're putting in there.
Probably just the environments outside the train.
Yeah. And like for like the big.
Yeah, like the wide shots of the whole train that was like whenever it's moving, right?
Yeah, and I'd say like the big.
I think most
fight scene that's like in the dark or like in that moment where you can kind of see the outside and everything through the windows. It was most likely put on like a sound stage with a blue or green screen all around them. And that was just how they kind of managed the windows and stuff. But I feel like they actually did have trains or like a train set.
It felt like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they even had it like, you know, like when you're on like a train and you turn and you kind of get that like, you can't see the other cars anymore because it's like curved. You kind of got some of those shots too. Like it wasn't there for a big chunk of it though, which was kind of weird. I thought it was going to be there for a little bit longer. But then it just came back every once in a while. And I was like, oh, this could be like an actual like scaled, like to scale model of like a few train cars that they were working with. And that's so like so impressive. And I wouldn't be surprised.
It takes 1 year.
What's that?
It takes 1 year for the train to go around the entirety of the Earth, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Does it go around the equator? Where does it go around?
Well,
they showed a map of it a couple times, but I have to.
It just kind of like
because I want to see how fast that train was going, because it looked like it was hauling down there.
Yeah, but then again, like the Earth is like pretty big, so I mean,
yeah.
I don't even know if a super train.
You know the TV show?
It is a TV show on
Netflix. The railway expands 438,000 kilometers.
438,000. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, it goes all around all of the continents.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't just go around like that.
That's cool.
It was like not necessarily a very maintained structure. I was expecting it to just kind of be like a loop that was kind of like, you know, cylindrical or something like that, or like maybe a figure eight. But then it's just like all
like following the equator.
Yeah, it was all like kind of squiggly, and I guess it was just done to reach all like the big cities and stuff like that, maybe.
Well, I guess you'd have to think it was clearly people built that with intentions of whatever it was supposed to be used for, whether he knew this was going to happen or whatever. Clearly, that was all planned out and constructed before the Ice Age, so there must have been some specific reason why he did it that way.
Yeah,
which could have been, you know, major cities, or maybe just the practicality of, you know, you can't just do a circle around the whole globe. There's so much ocean and stuff, so maybe just practically wise.
That's true.
Yeah,
because they did.
And then what happened?
Oh, I was just gonna say they did like show in the school scene when they were showing that video. That's kind of when we got to see the map, and I think the whole thing was to like connect the world, you know, like globalization.
Oh,
get all like the countries quick access to each other, basically.
You don't really see many people from different countries though.
I mean, there's like French people, there's
Yeah.
Koreans,
and
and
then
then Americans and like British. Those are the four
yeah.
that I found in the movie.
And I did the math.
Those are the only four countries in the world.
Did it ever show where it started, like where everyone got on to start the train? Like, how is there such a diverse
That's
group
what's
of people?
weird. Yeah.
You know,
If it's a full circuit, I'd reckon it like I guess they just pick up people along the way, right?
I guess so. I'm not
Maybe,
sure.
but they did
There's
like,
not
make
really
it
any
official
seem.
doors.
Sorry.
What was that?
There's not really any official doors to
I
get
think
out
there's
of.
just that one towards
There's
the
just
front.
the one in the very front.
Yeah.
So you
Well,
need
I
to
mean,
funnel in
everybody
people
else.
from the front to the very back.
I mean, I would think that the people that live in the tail end got on from the tail end, because that's
Right.
like how
They got
no-
on free, basically.
Yeah, they got
Okay.
on last, I would assume.
They called
and
them freeloaders multiple times. So
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
think
so I
they
feel
just
like
kinda
that could have been
got
it.
on.
And I mean, picking people up along the way makes sense, but also
Yeah.
the opening shots of the movie when it kind of has like the text explaining like the exposition of CW7 froze the whole world and stuff like that. We do see like cars on the highway with like the drivers frozen in their seat, at least very briefly. So like that makes me think it happened fast.
Well, I don't know. I was gonna say unless wherever the CW7,
Yeah.
Yeah.
CW7, wherever it started, slowly kind of wrapped its way around the world. So as the train's going, it picks people up. But I'm pretty sure multiple countries tested with it, right? So it's
And
kind of like
the train will
everywhere
have
all
to
at once.
stop. And it said
That's true. I don't
the
think it
engine always
stopped.
goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
then,
it must
okay.
have been. I don't know.
And then
I'll
one
have, to,
thing
I'll have to do some research on that one.
Yeah.
out of all
Maybe
the
it's
things
explained in the
to save-
comic. I'm not sure.
Probably.
Maybe, yeah.
Or I would hope so.
Out of all the things to save the
Right.
human population of Earth, why would you put them on a huge train? Like that seems really risky. It derails at the end.
Yeah.
But anyway, I did the math, and kilometers per hour for anybody who goes 50 kilometers an hour, or at least 31 miles an hour.
Okay.
That
31.
train looked like it was going a lot faster
How many-
than 31 miles an hour.
Wait, is that
How many
that's
kilometers
fast
an
it was
hour is
going?
that?
That's 50.
50 kilometers.
50. That's
Is-
50 kilometers an hour. That's how fast you go in residential areas here, like in my town. That's
Yeah.
There's no way that train was going
That's, that's
50.
exactly a year. That's
Yeah,
exactly a year.
It'll pull up at a year
What?
perfectly. Yeah, I did. I just did the math a year.
How the
Mhm.
hell can that train destroy literal like
That's
icebergs?
exactly what I was
essentially?
thinking.
Going 30 something miles an hour. Yeah.
That.
Yep.
So sorry, Bong Joon-ho, but come on. Like we're just we're pulling it apart now.
Yeah. You could at least made it longer, okay? You made it wrap around the entire Earth. Just make a little loop, like an extra loop in it.
Right.
Make it longer.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was expecting something like 100, you know? Like
Oh,
like
yeah.
breakneck
Nothing
speeds
was
for a
dull.
train.
But then
Oh,
again,
Yeah,
like,
because you can see all the frozen ice on the side of the train. It's like flowing like sideways. That won't happen if you're going 30 miles an hour.
I mean, you would think also with the train that with the curves that because there's so many curves on the map that they show us, there's no way it can go at a breakneck speed going on those curves, especially if the train wasn't hooked directly to
That's
the
true.
rail and it was like wobbling off towards the end.
It did derail,
And
though.
it did derail, and it like literally
Well,
fell
it
off the track.
basically wobbled off. It wobbled off a lot during the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
whenever
it
they were
tilted
taking the
off
turns, it was like,
constantly. But
yeah,
that thing is delicate.
dangerous.
Mhm.
So it's, I don't know. It's weird. It makes it feel like it makes it feel like it was set earlier in that case, because it's like, how did they not make? I mean, no, never mind. The train was built in 2014, so it does make sense if it wasn't like this huge, super
Technology-wise,
super intense technological train that stays onto the tracks. Never mind. Scratch that thought. If it was like in 2070 that it was 17 years that they were on it, then
You'd think it'd be magnetic. Or
then you would
something.
think it would be magnetic or some
Maglev
type
train?
of thing like that. It literally reminds me when I was seeing moments of like the train hopping off and stuff, and I was like, okay. It reminded me so much of in Vancouver here where I'm at now. There's the oldest wooden roller coaster, I believe, in North America or in the world, maybe. And it's such a fun ride to go on, but some of like the old carts feels like it hops off the track on some of like the humps when you go up and down, because like you literally like have to hold yourself down so you don't lift up from your seat. So it's it really does kind of feel like that, and I kind of got like the similar like icky feeling in like my gut when I was watching those clips in Snowpiercer. I was like, oh no, this isn't good. But it does like beg the question, like, why a train? But I mean, if you want to just stay in constant motion, like if that keeps it warm, maybe.
And like you said, what happened? Oh, go ahead.
No, go for it, man.
I was gonna say, like you said, you know how like with the sharp turns and stuff like that, if you're going like super fast, changes in elevation. You can't just go around mountains. Unless I guess you could, since the train is like 438 kilometers long. Thousand.
Oh, the track or the train?
The track.
Okay.
The track.
How long is the train? Hold on. How long is
how many
the
cars
train?
is the train? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, that kind of confuses me.
Could you
because
count them in the movie, or do you think it skips some?
I think it
I
would
don't
definitely skip some.
I actually made a list as they were going through the cars and fighting through. I was making a list of what each cart was, and I got to the end, which was like after. So I got like the plant room, the aquarium, the room where they had all the hanging meat, the water room, the school. They had like a hot tub room, a spa, a party room, all these things. And I got to the end, I'm like, where's all the like bedrooms?
That's like I was watching with my
showed
mom,
like
and
two
she was like,
party rooms and a spa.
Yeah, that was
So
like,
I
my
think
mom
it-
was criticizing the movie so bad because she was like, where did
Yeah.
these people sleep? Like all these privileged
Exactly.
people that
Yeah.
don't got beds. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah.
That's exactly what I
There's
thought.
if you look at the wide shots of the train, though, the train is really tall.
It's
Like,
really long.
it's like-
We definitely
yeah,
skipped that time.
Yeah, I'm
Oh, and it's
pretty sure
also
there's, like,
tall.
the-
Yeah,
I-
that's what you said.
it's huge.
That's
When you look
true.
at like the wide shots of it, it's like it's tall, has the windows on top, and then like the bottom is not like that, and it's 10 miles. So you
10
absolutely
miles.
could not count the train cars in the movie because they are 1,001.
Wow.
1,001 train cars.
There you
So these train cars are 52 feet long, give
go.
or take.
Holy hell.
Yeah.
Wow,
So I guess they are pretty big.
that's
Yeah.
insane. And it does
Oh, I
make
did-
sense. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say I typed in the calculation and then a Reddit thing came up with somebody else doing the exact same.
Oh man, because there's like that one scene that you mentioned, Jesus, when like the train is like curved and you see, and they're like shooting at each other through the train. That means like those guys, like the bad guys. I think one of the characters is like called the child snatcher or something like that, or the child catcher. He, who's also supposed to be Mike TV apparently, in like the whole Willy Wonka lore thing. Anyways, I'm pretty sure like those guys were like knocked out or like held back for like a pretty good period of time at one point before that specific scene. And then that makes sense because it just kind of cuts directly to Chris Evans' character and everybody else getting into that moment where they can shoot at each other. So it does add up if they like traveled through like all the bedroom cars and like then just cut into like the cooler looking ones with like the pools and stuff like that.
Right, yeah. We definitely skipped a bunch and just showed the important ones, but it was really, really hard to tell how many train cars there were when watching the movie. Clearly there was more than we saw, but it took me out of it a little bit. It was like, oh, there's 12 of them, I guess, you know?
You're kind of missing a few 900 something in there.
Yeah, especially with like, all the people that we see in there. It's like
wait. How long did they take to walk around to walk to the front of the train? We just said it was 10 miles long.
They slept multiple times.
They did.
I don't.
They showered and slept one night. They rested another time. Like they definitely. It was probably multiple days. Yeah, after the whole night vision fight, he said go ahead and shower, and then they were all like sleeping, getting ready to go again. So.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember that. I just didn't remember that.
Yeah, so definitely, it wasn't like an hour or two. It was a big mission.
How fast does a human walk through? Like 2-3 miles an hour?
Like something like that. Yeah.
You
But if
could
you're
still
being
walk
held
10
back
miles
by like
pretty
a bunch
easily,
of people, like
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it seems like we missed a
pretty
bunch
logical.
where they were probably just walking through. You know,
Yeah.
I think
With
we
the
saw
bedroom
all
part?
the problems they had, and the rest
Mhm.
of it was just their journey walking through, from what
yeah.
I'm understanding.
And that's like
Plus,
what
it's a
made
bunch
me
of people, so you can't just like march.
Yeah, and that's what kind of confused me because like when they're going through like the spa area, there's like another one that's kind of similar with like, the hot tubs and stuff. The people are
Mhm.
kind of they look scared, but they're unbothered by them being there. But then
I haven't noticed that.
but then the end of the movie, we got all the party people coming in to try to fight them again. Like or some of them are.
Yeah,
And
I
it's like
think they were trying to protect Wilford.
oh
because they were at the front of the train because they were like, ooh. Yeah, because they would see him as a good guy, obviously, because they're getting all that luxury stuff.
yeah. But then
Well,
again, they didn't
I
stop them
know.
from getting through. So that's what's the weird.
That's fair.
True. It's true.
Yeah.
I have a note here that just says, "Why is everyone desensitized? No one cares." I don't understand
Yeah.
that. I know there's probably a deeper meaning there, or there's probably a disconnect between high class and low class. I'm not sure what the real meaning is. Just watching it one time, but no one cares. None of like the high class people. They're just like, oh hey, you know, they're just walking by. I'm in a hot tub. Like I don't
look at 'em weird, like-
understand that. The kids even are like,
Yeah.
They're like,
not
oh yeah, we
bothered.
saw those people pass by over there, giving free information to these people that are gonna like
yeah.
And their
take away
teacher
And
the
they're
got
like, we've
shot up.
heard of you guys. You guys are like, you know, pieces of shit that live in the back. Like we've heard of you, and they just don't
Yeah.
care. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't. And I think it has to do with brainwashing and stuff. You got to think.
Probably.
It's been 17 years. It's not like this just happened.
yeah.
So 17 years have been like the classroom scene, for example. They're clearly teaching these people to like worship Wilford and brainwashing them to have these same ideals and everything. I guess that's why 17
Yeah, and if you
years
teach it,
of this
course you're
of
gonna
all
believe it,
these
at least.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just odd to me that you would think if they're taught these things and they see the people from the tail end, you think they'd have a different reaction than just like, what's up? It's just weird to me.
And the whole thing, the movie is constantly talking about balance and how you need balance in society, and like that's how like classist capitalism basically works. Like the people on the back have to stay in the back, the people in the front have to stay in the front for it to work. So then what was the whole point of that whole journey of clearly everybody in the front antagonizing the back and like treating the back as though they're the bad ones, when at the very end Wilford wanted Curtis to be his replacement?
I thought halfway through the movie, or not halfway through, I guess like as soon as we see Wilford, what came to my head was episode 9 of Star Wars, where Rey is with Palpatine, and she's like, if you strike me down, I'm going to go inside of you and we will become all the Sith and you'll rule. He wants her to strike him down. If you want her to do that, why are you telling her that? Because she was already going to. It's the same thing with Wilford and Curtis. Why are you telling him these things? His goal was to kill you and take over. He's already doing that. So why are you telling him these things and now he doesn't want to anymore? Like I immediately thought of that Palpatine.
Yeah, like I was gonna do it, but since you said it, I just don't want to anymore.
Yeah, it's like, well now I can't do it because
you just ruined it.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, and there's like this whole weird moment where it feels like Wilford is trying to turn Curtis to like believe in the structure of the train.
He almost did.
And he almost did.
He almost did. He was
Until
like,
he saw the kid. He almost did.
Until he saw
I
the
think
kid,
he was
exactly.
going to until he saw the kid.
And like that's what's so weird. It's like why, like I guess like what triggered the whole thing for Curtis is that he realized Gilliam. I don't. Gilliam.
It's like William.
Okay, Gilliam. Okay.
Gilliam.
Yeah. Was when the reveal was that Gilliam was working with Wilford the whole time, and I feel like that could have been like the tipping point for like Curtis to be like, oh well, if Gilliam wants me to do it, then okay.
Yeah, I initially thought that Wilford was lying. I'm like, was he? But then he dropped that line where you need 2 arms to embrace a girl or something like that. And that was something Gilliam had told Curtis, so clearly he knew. What I was thinking the whole time was Wilford was watching them, like cameras and stuff. I didn't think that Gilliam was actually involved. And I was expecting, they didn't kill Gilliam. He's going to walk in and he's going to be with Wilford. No, they did kill him. So is he lying? Is he telling the truth? Were they talking on those phones? I don't know.
And like, is
I
Gilliam?
think it's kind of just left. I don't know.
Yeah, and it begs the question, like, is Gilliam a good guy at all for that? Because it's like, yes,
And
he's
it's like, why
trying to
would
give
he?
Curtis power, but he's also killing half of, like 75% of the
But
people
why?
that he lived
He
with.
also like cut his arm and his leg off and everything willingly, and spent 18 years in the tail of the train.
Yeah.
Unless he's also extremely obsessed with order and balance, like all the high class people, and he understands his role, because they're all obsessed with, you have a predestined role you have to partake in. And it's all about order and balance and like an ecosystem. And maybe he understood his role. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. And I mean, taking it back to the Willy Wonka theory, I mean, Gilliam is supposed to be Mr. Wilkinson, who's the spy that Wonka sends out. Slugworth,
There you go.
who is like supposed to be like this evil dude, but turns out to be good in the end. So it's basically like
The
reverse of that, and Wilkinson is now just a super old man trying to help out Charlie, but is like just doing the opposite of what happened. So if we see it that way, then it's like just allegiance is made Gilliam do what he did and like go that far to chop off an arm and literally put an arm and a leg out for this man.
Arm and a leg.
And yeah,
and it came kind of full circle where I really liked that at the end. Curtis loses his arm, kind of like a full circle thing where he wouldn't cut his arm off before. And he had that scar where he tried, and it's kind of like a selfishness. And we keep hearing him say, like, I can't be a leader, I've got both my arms. And we don't understand what that means until the end. And we're like, oh, he's too selfish to become a leader. Everyone's giving away their arms to eat, and he wouldn't do it. So at the end, he finally like sacrifices his arm and becomes that leader he's supposed to be. But instead of running the train, he just destroys the whole system, because that's the only way to stop it. And it kind of like, I just realized the system in the train is kind of like an endless loop, just like the track. Because even if Curtis took over, or they killed Curtis if someone else took over, the system is just going to keep repeating itself and repeating itself. The only way to get rid of it is to destroy it.
Yeah.
Regardless of, because remember we said that that Curtis almost gave in. Which, I mean, like, you can't blame him. He went like from the very back of the train where people were starving, or they were giving up their arms and legs for that, and then he makes it to the front, and he's quite literally handed the entire world. He's offered that. So, like, why wouldn't he take it?
Right, and I think he was absolutely going to, and then he realized
when he saw that kid, he saw like, this
the only way to keep this world running is to use the people in the tail end, like they're basically using these people's labor and their children and stuff like this, just so they can live their life. And
and since he was part of them, he was like, no.
Yeah, and it's something else I'd like to bring up here. What was her name here? Yona? Is that how you pronounce it? The daughter?
Yona, I think it was Yona.
Yona?
Yeah.
There's this like kind of throwaway line where Chris Evans is like, "Hey, are you clairvoyant?" And then they never touch on it again. But like, she is, but she's not, and it never really gets.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
I don't know. It's because it's like,
because she knew, she was the one that figured out the kid was in the floor.
Yeah.
Oh my God. She stops. Yeah, she looks down and she gets the fork and she's like, "Oh shit," you know.
That's so true.
What's up with that? I don't understand.
That's so weird.
And he's like, "Hey, how do you know what's on the other side of the door?" She's like, "Don't open that one." Are you clairvoyant? Never mentions it again. And I just wish we got a little more. I guess
she was.
Maybe one extra scene with just her maybe showing something. I'm not sure. She's a train baby, right?
She was, and it's like, she said she was 17. She was 17, so she literally was.
It would have been at the very beginning.
A train baby, like born as the train was leaving, almost. It seems, and it's like really interesting when we realize that that's like this ability she probably has, and knowing that she's like supposed to be one of the last humans alive now at the end of the very end of the movie. It's like, oh, she's like this neat, like new, like evolved version of a human that has this ability, and like she's the last one left with this like child. It's
It just doesn't sit right with me that it was a throwaway line. I just wish that we got something else.
So did everybody die?
I think so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think everyone's said.
Like it was a pretty bad derailing, but
I think it's
everybody.
I think we're supposed to
assume that everybody died.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the ending. I wrote this down.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up here. Sorry. Ending interpretation. I put two things on here. My interpretation was that the derailing of the train was the end of humanity, and it was supposed to be. That's it. There's these two kids, and they see this polar bear, but like they're train babies. They have no idea how to survive. They have nothing. It's a tundra.
Mm-hmm.
It's the end of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
The flip side of that is it's like a hopefulness. Is what I think it's supposed to show here. Like, oh, there's still life. There's a polar bear out here. We're alive. But they were walking away from the train, which is where they could get all their food and water and all that. And so I interpreted it. That's the end. That's the end of humanity.
You know what though?
So I think there's just a coin there.
Yeah, because you know how the movie is completely about like this, like capitalism, like how there are people on top that take advantage of people on the bottom and stuff like that, and vice versa and everything. Again, like if you look at that in a real world context, what would happen if we just completely destroyed that class system right there, instantly?
Mm-hmm. I don't think we can. I think
exactly. Like if that thing were to happen,
exactly.
It would destroy
but also,
everything.
like, the whole point is, I think what it's saying is society, how we kind of have it in the modern world, is destined to fail if we keep up the exact same thing. That's what I got out of this. Yeah. But also, like, capitalism only works by abusing the people underneath you. You know, the high-ups aren't getting there without, you know, I don't know if this is a true fact or not, but, like, Nike using, like, child labor and these big companies and stuff. It's a good symbolism there where it's like these companies are utilizing child labor today, right now. And you can't get where you're at, like Amazon and Apple and all these places, without abusing the tail end, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
just an endless loop until it destroys society.
For sure. And the way that I completely agree with both of the interpretations that you had, Gunnar, like it's, I mean, if you want to think one way, one works. If you want to think the other way, the other works. What I was also
and that's what I like about it.
Yeah, and what I was also kind of thinking about it was it might have suggested, because we see the polar bears alive and I don't remember the daughter's name again. You just said it.
Yona?
Yona and
Yona. Not Namgoon and Yona.
Okay, yeah. Yona and Timmy, I think, was the kid.
I think it was Timmy.
Yeah. So Yona and Timmy, seeing that they're like still alive while being outside, like it's obviously not as cold anymore. Right. It makes me think that it's suggesting that whole system of life was futile because they could still live outside, at least after a certain point in time. So it's like if only they tried at one point. I mean, because they like basically used fear mongering to make people not want to go outside with that one group of people that they could see once a year that were frozen on the path.
How did they get out, by the way?
They probably...
What was that?
How did they get out?
That group that we see frozen?
It explained...
I don't know if they say
what... man, I think the teacher... Well, it was another revolution, basically.
Yeah, the teacher kind of explained a little bit of it, but like...
Yeah, I don't think it said how they got out.
And they don't say how long it's been that they were there. And I feel like they could have been there for a super long time, and it was just used as fear mongering, because the ending of the movie suggests that they could have been living outside for at least a decent amount of time.
The entire time.
Well, the revolution before Curtis's revolution was 4 years ago, because they mentioned how like they ran out of bullets 4 years ago at the last revolution.
Yeah.
The first revolution was those 7 that went outside. So it's been somewhere between 4 years and 10, somewhere in that time, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been at least probably 5 years.
Okay.
But the train, they'd have to stop the train to get out, though.
They just jump. I mean, if it's only going 30 miles an hour, they could just jump.
Exactly.
That's true. Yeah.
We did the math. I mean, technically,
because I keep forgetting the train. It looks like it's going so much faster.
Now,
30 miles an hour. 30 miles an hour is pretty fast. That's like 10 miles an hour faster than the word fast.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's there's just so many things. I mean, it's just basically us talking about how bad capitalism is, and like that's like where the whole thing is wrong. But that's like what they want us to learn.
I put another note here. I wrote deliberately designed this way, and I wrote that towards the end of the movie when we meet Wilford. It kind of came to my head where it doesn't have to be like this. The train is deliberately, specifically designed in the way it is, with this tail end, with this balance, with this ecosystem they wanted. He specifically made it this way. And everyone just thinks that's how it's supposed to be, but it's not. That's what Wilford, the kind of God figure in this world, as everyone sees him, he designed this. It doesn't have to be like they have plenty of resources, but he seems to think there has to be this circular ecosystem, kind of like they explained with the aquarium, where they're like, oh yeah, we have sushi only twice a year. We have plenty of fish, but we have to kill off a certain amount specifically at certain times. They do the same thing with the tail end where they kill 74% like every so often or whatever, and they use their kids and all that.
And that whole thing, that was, would you argue that like the children are also part of that cycle, like having them come up to the front to do that work in the engine? Because like we don't know.
I think that's why he designed it that way.
Are
I know
kids...
it doesn't fit into the Willy Wonka theory. But he designed it, and he said he loves the tail end because they reproduce like crazy. So he can use the kids, and then he kills off 74% of them, and he just keeps the cycle of these kids. So he needs that tail end for basically everything. But again, he specifically designed it that way. He didn't have to design it that way. But I don't know why, you know?
Yeah, it's
he could have figured out another.
It's like he has this little pool of people that he draws from.
And like we don't know if, for example, they just kill the kids once they can't fit in that like spot.
I think they probably repurposed them. I think they repurposed them for the other things. Like you see that one dude that's like making the protein bars and stuff. I think they probably just repurposed the kids for other stuff. There's probably so many more jobs we don't see, you know?
I mean, 1,001.
And they're brainwashed. They don't know what's going on now.
Exactly. I mean, do the rich even know either what's going on? Like,
see, I thought of this after I asked why everyone doesn't care. I think it's that, was it the Chronal, the drug? Curtis mentions how they use it to subdue everyone. They give them hallucinations and subdue them. So I think that everyone's just around this drug so much that that's probably why they don't care about a lot of things.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
It's kind of like it makes them hallucinate. So I think that's why they don't know what's going on.
Right.
I didn't think about that earlier, but I had a question. Actually, I forgot to talk about before we close here. It's mentioned in the beginning that they think the person they're trying to get to is a prisoner. And it's mentioned that there is a prison and there are prisoners. I thought, watching it for the first time, the nighttime area in the tunnel, I thought immediately when I saw all those people with the masks and axes, I'm like, oh shit, they got the prisoners loose. I thought that's what that was. But then after seeing it, it's like, oh no, because they all listen to the high class people. So who are those people? Are they just guards? Or why are they so distinctly different from the rest of the guards?
What if it's the people that were taken from the back and brainwashed to work for the front? Because they don't seem like they're...
They actually are the prisoners, and they're like, you can be free if you do this one thing.
Yeah, because like they're like the most expendable to the front. They wouldn't send their own people to do that, other than the security guys, but those are meant to be the trained officers. But
I just clicked on trivia on IMDb. First thing I saw here, according to the filmmakers, trained babies like Yona developed animalistic hearing skills. So she's not clairvoyant. She just has really, really, really good hearing.
Okay, that solves it. There you go.
Cool.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could find anything about them not wanting to release the movie without editing it and stuff, which I actually did find out. Bong Joon-ho often clashed with producer Harvey Weinstein, who frequently interfered in order to demand his version of the film. Among the many requests, the producer insisted on having the fish scene removed in favor of more action. Bong, who considered his favorite shot in the film, exactly, it was considered his favorite shot in the film. He was adamant it be kept in, and told the producer that he wanted to keep the shot for a personal reason as a tribute to his late father, who was a fisherman. Upon hearing this, Weinstein said that family is very important to him, and he granted him to keep the shot. But in an interview after the movie, the director said, "It was a fucking lie. My father was not a fisherman."
Awesome. Fucked
That's
over
awesome.
Weinstein. Hell
Also,
yeah.
R.I.P.
That is awesome.
Fish at the end of that movie. Man, that's sad.
So
Any
it must
animal.
have been like producers and stuff like that were clashing with them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look more into that because I'm pretty interested.
Absolutely. That's like always something interesting when we get to find out. I mean, like same thing like with the whole Zack Snyder like cut and everything.
Yeah,
Like,
give us a Snyder cut.
when we find out how badly like the executives try to mess with the storylines
yeah.
and stuff, it's like kind of
Well, how bad they
heartbreaking.
treated the actors too.
Yeah, it's so heartbreaking because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we want to see these people's works of art, but then the people that are trying to make money off of it are the ones that don't want it to be the work of art that it was meant to be. And it's like,
I think
Yeah.
what's so bad about like the modern day of media and movies especially is I feel like greater storytelling is more in TV shows nowadays because there's a little more freedom.
Yeah.
For movies,
Because
you got to
you get that.
big studios,
yeah,
Oh, and
cash grab.
actually, that's the thing that, statistically speaking, if you've ever noticed how they make like a bunch of other stuff into TV shows, kind of like how they make the Snowpiercer TV show.
Mhm. I am gonna check that
People,
out as well.
yeah, right, me too. People are more likely to watch through an entire show than watch one long movie. So people would rather
Really?
watch
You
in
can
one
binge it
sitting.
probably.
Yeah, people would rather watch
Totally.
in one sitting one 7-episode season of like 1 hour episodes than watch one 7-hour movie.
Blows my mind.
that's insane.
Yeah,
That's
Blows
wild.
my mind.
Just because it's in little pieces like that, people will sit like 12 hours just watching it, and they would not watch they would not watch a 12-hour movie. They would not even touch it. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
when I've seen Gone with the Wind, and it took me 3 tries to get through the whole thing. Like I watched 3 full-length movies because of how long the movie is.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. That's
I
how I
get it.
was with the Snyder Cut actually. When that came out a couple months ago in March, I think. I watched it in probably 3 chunks or so. Not because I couldn't take it, but just because it's so long. I have other things I'm doing. You know, I sit down for a couple hours, and then I think I watched it in like 2 or 3, 1.5 to 2 hour chunks or so.
mhm.
But it still blows my mind that people can sit through a whole TV show like that.
For
Yeah,
sure.
me too.
Well, I don't know.
Jesus,
I'm over
did
here
you
like,
have-
man, that's so weird. Like, and I binge watched like Stranger Things in like 2 days.
Yeah.
I just really, really appreciate you guys letting me come on here and kind of talk about this movie. It gave me an opportunity to see something that I probably wouldn't have seen, surprisingly. So I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I hope I can join you guys again sometime.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was a fun episode. I really like this movie. One more thing, by the way.
Mhm.
How did
What's
they
that?
use the bathroom?